So, Little Town Hero. Man, that's an interesting game. I've played most of Game Freak's non-Pokemon games, and they always tend to put out something that's a little bit weird and maybe just a little bit too different. But after playing Little Town Hero, I'm confident in saying that I really respect Game Freak as a game developer. Most of their resources are probably spent working on Pokemon, but it seems like whenever they get a chance, they try to reach out with little passion projects like this one. And I'll be honest, it's a little bit disappointing when I see people commenting about how this game is low budget. As long as the game is fun and you enjoy it, then that should be the most important thing. So I don't understand why some game players sound like they don't want to play anything that's not AAA. But if you're into new experiences and truly are a game freak, then this is why you should care about Little Town Hero. So first off, I think Little Town Hero suffers from a case of mistaken identity. For some reason or another, fans or players thought Game Freak, Pokemon, Nintendo Switch, and came to the conclusion, epic, continent-sprawling JRPG. So I don't know why people came to this conclusion. I didn't follow this game up to its release. I didn't watch any of the promotional materials. And if you look at the date on this video, I'm actually playing it on the Xbox version, which was released much later. And again, I don't know why this happened. Maybe it's the fault of the publisher, or the way they promoted the game. Or maybe it was a case of the fans wanting something and letting their expectations overrun what the game is actually about. So after playing a good part of the game, I started going back and watching other people's reviews to see what their complaints were about. At this point, I had a good grasp of how the gameplay mechanic worked, and I was pretty confident that I was favorable about the game, although frustrated somewhat about the design. So most of the reviews mentioned the battle mechanic being kind of convoluted and not working, which I'll talk about in a second. But then I saw other people complain about how you never leave the town, or how the shops don't actually have any purpose because you can't buy anything in there. There's no currency to buy stuff. I saw people complain about the animations, about how the main character only has 2 animations, and then all of a sudden, out came all the Pokemon jokes, taking jabs at Game Freak as a developer. Okay, so let's stop there. So instead of talking about past games, or the shortcomings of this game, it's time to talk about what this game actually is. Little Town Hero, at its heart, is a puzzle game. It's a puzzle game with a unique card battle mechanic that requires tons and tons of micro calculations, analyzing every single action, every card, every individual turn, and future turns. And then on top of that, there's probably 5 other mechanics stacked in as well. But trust me, it's a puzzle game with a unique mechanic. And to top it all off, they fused in this encompassing story so that you have purpose behind solving all the puzzles. And it's a good story too. So when Axe was young, his father disappeared. Was it a case of abandonment? Or did he die? No one knows. But Axe thinks he left the town. He thinks his dad went off on some grand adventure, left his family behind, and forgot about them. So he harbors some of that resentment and can't wait to leave himself so he can put it all behind. The town is geographically isolated, and the only way in and out is through the castle. And that's actually the opening scene of the game, is Axe trying to sneak out and find a way into the castle so he can get out. Upon getting caught, he meets the captain of the guard, who agrees to train him as a soldier, because soldiers are the only ones who can actually go out. Axe is excited about the opportunity, and just wants to become a soldier so he can protect the village. He relishes at the thought of doing battle with huge monsters, but the captain lets him in on a sobering fact. There are no such thing as monsters. It's just a story to keep people from leaving the town. But lo and behold, in the very next sentence, a monster shows up in the middle of town, and Axe must fight to protect everyone. He's victorious, but obviously, this leads to another set of questions. Where did this monster come from? Why did he suddenly decide to attack this town? Is there some sort of secret entrance? One that Axe's father could have used to leave the town? Wait, I thought monsters weren't supposed to exist in the first place. I enjoyed how Game Freak handled the whole package. I think they did a fantastic job with the mystery, showing you one thing, distracting you with something else, and then having it pay off later after you've forgotten. It's a wholesome story about love, about being young, and about how sometimes you're wanting so bad to go out on an adventure when really there's an adventure to be had just where you are. And that's basically Little Town Hero. There is so much great about this game, but if you're looking for it to be Pokemon, or Final Fantasy VII, or Dragon Quest, yeah, I can absolutely understand why you would be disappointed. but this is one of the best and most unique gameplay experiences I have ever had. It really is the complete package. There is a chance that maybe the battle mechanic is not for you. Like I said earlier, there are so many systems that you're juggling all at the same time. It is completely overwhelming initially. The first couple hours of the game was just me complaining the entire time. If there's one legitimate complaint I have against this game, it's that they did a terrible job explaining everything in the beginning. They drop a bunch of systems in your lap, they give everything complicated and unnecessary names, and then you're kind of left to figure everything out on your own by repeatedly running your head into the wall. It sucks because you'll constantly feel like you're getting smacked down. The enemy is always pulling out these random moves or modifiers, ones you didn't know they even had, and ones that cause you massive problems. It actually reminds me a lot of when I was in middle school and everyone was playing Magic the Gathering. You'd be playing against somebody who had better cards or knew all the tricks, and suddenly they'd be busting out this or that or instances or trample and all this stuff, and then you started to feel like helpless. Like, this is bullshit. And I'm telling you right now, that will happen a lot in this game. But there's a reason why there are so many systems and so many options. Because the game always leaves you a way out. If you plan right, keep a calm head, among all the chaos, you can find an escape route. But if you get frustrated, start throwing controllers, throwing your hands in the air, every time you get hit with some bullshit move, just being overall bullheaded, you're not going to see a solution. And that's the brilliance of this game, is that there's so many options that initially it's frustrating, it's overwhelming, it makes you not want to play the game. But for some reason I found myself wanting to play a little bit more. It's that feeling of, oh man, if I just would have rolled a 3, or if I would have just got that one card, I totally would have had him. But then you get a little bit further and you realize, oh, I didn't need a 3, I could have just done this instead. There's an actual brilliance to the game design. Somebody sat there and actually thought it all out. Like if you play the game, you'll notice that the die you roll is actually only 4-sided. That makes a huge difference in terms of probability if you're trying to roll a number out of 4 or versus 6. That means you always have a 25% chance of getting the number you need. And then the game has other ways to mitigate or increase your probability chance. Like for instance, if you look at how the game board is designed, it has a lot of branching paths that loop around. You may only need a 2 to land on the tile you need. But then you realize, oh, if you rolled a 4, you could go the other direction and land on it as well. And if you only roll a 1, you don't go past it, you can just save it for the next turn. So then you really only have one number that you're trying to avoid. So instead of having a 25% chance of getting the number you want, you actually have a 25% chance of messing up. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of complicated when I'm trying to explain it like this. I'm definitely going to have to make a separate video explaining some of the finer points. But just trust me when I say that each battle, each boss is intricately designed. For each bullshit move that they have, Game Freak has included a bullshit move for you to combat it. And again, initially, most players are unaware of this because they haven't put in the time yet. So it does really feel frustrating that you're getting hit by all these different things. So I will be honest and say that this game is probably not for everybody. You really have to like working with numbers, with analyzing things, planning all the strategies out, trying to think up the best moves with the cards that you've drawn. And another thing is that I think you have to be mentally strong. There's this kind of ebb and flow in this game where things go right and then things go terribly wrong. And if you're one of those people who are going to throw up their hands and quit every time something goes wrong, you're not going to get very far in this game. But I can 100% promise you and guarantee you that if you stay calm, assess the situation, you can find a way out. And you can get through this game. And that's definitely one of the finer points, is that whenever you do beat a boss, it feels like such an accomplishment. You'll remember specific moves you pulled off at specific times, and you'll be like, oh man, dude, I'm pretty awesome that I was able to pull that off. It's rewarding. And so is the story and the characters. I've always liked games that have a compelling reason to continue, something that keeps me hooked. And even if the game's really difficult, if you have this cycle of breadcrumbs where the player hits that difficult wall, but there's like a reward on the other side of it. I mean, that's why we play games, right? To be challenged and then overcome those challenges and then collect the rewards that come with completing the challenge. So yeah, I guess that's it. I think I've talked enough about Little Town Hero. I really didn't want to get into the storyline stuff. I loved it. but I could see how some people might think it's a little bit anime tropey. Maybe it's a little bit too hopeful and optimistic for this generation. It's a little bit simple and heartfelt, but I kind of like that stuff. Especially when you consider that this is a puzzle game and you get a story bundled in with it. So that's it. Thanks for listening. If you've played the game or have some questions, leave me some comments. If you're thinking about picking it up, I've heard the Steam version doesn't support full screen. And there are physical versions for the PS4 and the Switch. So if you're one of those collector types like me. Again, I'm planning to make a video that goes more in depth with the design aspects of the game. I think it's really fascinating the way they designed this game. And I wouldn't be surprised if they told me that there was some sort of rubber band AI involved. So please check that video out if you have a chance. As always, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye! The fucking game might be the fucking greatest game of all time! Holy shit! Holy shit! The heck are you? This is my house, kid.